It is unknown how many magic shops will close this year. It is expected this trend will continue as magic enthusiasts buy their items of prestidigitation online. So why should anyone care? Because once you enter one of these magic shops, and are greeted by the friendly magician, the guy behind the counter, you are swept away into a world of joyous fascination. There are locals, sitting around tables performing their version of the magic trick you just bought, and are glad to help you learn. After about an hour, or so, you begin to sense there is much more going on in this place than just selling magic tricks. You recognize there is a special bond, sort of camaraderie among the patrons. You feel like you are in a clubhouse rather than a place peddling magic tricks. You are transported back to your childhood when your dad or mom took you to your first magic shop where you were amazed and surprised by what you were seeing. You may even meet some of the magic shop's originals, magicians who have been hanging around the shop over the past 50 years, who share with you some of the shop's good old days and even share delightful stories about the shop's owner. Fascinated by this, world-renowned magician and mentalist Wayne Hoffman decides to travel the world to visit these unique magic shops. What he soon realizes there is another kind of magic going on inside. Welcome to Behind the Magic.
Hello?
Choose wisely.
It accumulates all of the people that are really interested in magic, or, as we say, has the bug.
Hidden within the city of Reading, Pennsylvania, there lies a shop. This is far from your ordinary shop, however. This shop has been creating wonder and amazement for 8 decades. From those who have been going there half their lives, to those experiencing its charm for the very first time, they can't help but feel at home. This is the Mingus Magic Shop. This is Wayne.
Hello.
We'll get back to him in a few minutes.
Oh. Okay.
Because this story starts all the way back in the 19th century.
I've been in the entertaining business for about 50 years.
Leroy Herbert Mingus was born in February of 1896 in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. Like most boys growing up, Leroy had many hobbies and interests, but there was one that would never go away: magic. It wasn't until after briefly serving in the United States Army during World War I that Leroy attended a local performance by famed magician Howard Thurston. He was selected from the audience to assist Thurston with a magic trick on stage. Following this encounter, Leroy knew he was destined for the life of a magician. After taking the time to hone his craft, Mingus quickly became a staple in the East Coast vaudeville circuit. He shared the stage with the era's top names in entertainment. Mingus would go on to befriend master magician Harry Blackstone Sr. The two would write and visit together whenever their paths crossed. It was also in 1938 that Mingus joined the business world when he decided to open the Mingus Magic Shop.
My business at one time was at 408 Penn Avenue, West Reading.
Actually, you couldn't find the shop. It was somewhat hidden. First off, it was in the basement, and he really didn't advertise. I mean, there was no flashing sign out, magic here or advertisement. So it was kind of like you had to know to go there and where to go.
You'd walk down those steps, and on the cement wall was a mural of a magician in black tails and top hat, white gloves.
It was just a little hole in the wall. He didn't have much stuff to sell. It was mostly just a little rack of magic tricks.
Going down into his shop and having all of the paraphernalia around, and it was just a young boy just in awe. And out comes this bigger than life young man, Mr. Mingus.
I was intrigued the first time I went there because Leroy Mingus, and I thought, well, Mingus couldn't possibly be his last name because that is a magic name, Mingus. But I found out it was, and he was really the nicest man. He really was.
Due to Leroy's friendly and welcoming personality, the shop quickly became a popular hangout for magicians of all ages and skill levels. It became so popular that it led Mingus to form the Mingus Magic Club, associated with the International Brotherhood of Magicians, a club that still meets to this day. Another thing that the Mingus Magic Shop would become popular for was their feather flowers.
What I bought from him was feather flowers. And I just liked the beauty of the flowers. I liked what he had him do different tricks, appear, disappear, wilt. He had the petunias.
He'd sit there and talk to you, make the flowers taping or soldering or wherever, It was fun to watch him make the flowers.
His fingers always had the colors of all the feathers on them because he was always making the feather tricks with them.
Because of the work he did with the oils and the feathers, his hands were always dirty. And when the dove appeared, the white dove, the breast of the dove was always black. And it was kind of comical.
Mingus Feather Flowers even went as far as appearing on several hit TV shows such as Happy Days, Perfect Strangers, The Incredible Hulk, and The Love Boat. The highlight of the Feather Flowers' fame came when the theme for the 1962 Miss America pageant was magic. Leroy was asked to construct, along with a few other props, a 7-foot, 64-flower Botania for the show's climax of producing Miss America. Mingus's creativity didn't end there. He produced many more tricks. So many, in fact, that in 1952 he established the Mingus Magic Manufacturing Corporation.
Every time he would come there, he'd have a new trick, and he was also giving. He was very, very giving too. A lot of times he'd just say, here, and give you a trick that, you know, something small or something like that.
One of Leroy's biggest endeavors was releasing the Young Magician Magic Set. It was a high-quality magic set that sold for $15 at the time. There's an incomplete set on display at the current shop. Speaking of the current shop, on January 8th, 1968, a young man would walk into the shop that would change Mingus magic history forever.
Tell me when to stop. Stop.
Hey, Wayne.
Looks like they need me over here.
Well, I'm glad I caught you when you're actually open.
Hi, my name is Wayne Shiflett. I am owner of the Mingus Magic Shop, which I purchased from Leroy Mingus 42 years ago on May 20th, 1976.
Little did Wayne know that over the next 50 years he would change the magic world with his influence. You walk into the Mingus Magic Shop for the first time when?
1968.
1968. And then you walk in, what was your first experience in the shop?
Showing a trick where Mr. Mingus would take a ball and penetrate a solid ball, penetrate a solid cups and balls.
So breaking the laws of physics and science, basically, right before your eyes.
Yes.
And ironically, that was also my first magic trick that you showed me how many years later in 1991. So it all comes back around the horns.
My version of cups and balls is taught to me by Leroy Mingus 50 years ago. It's done with 3 balls and 3 cups. One at a time, a ball is placed on the middle cup, and at the count of 3, that's 1, 2, 3, goes right through. Let's do that again. Second ball on the middle cup, and again on the count of 3. That's 1, 2, 3, and that one goes through. We have one more to go. The last ball on the middle cup, and again on the count of 3. It's 1, 2, 3, and they're all through. But now the hard part. Hard part is actually trying to find the 4th ball. The reason the 4th ball is hard to find is because it's invisible. I keep those in my pocket right here. Invisible ball on the middle cup, and again on the count of 3. Here we go. 1, whoop, sorry, it fell off. Let's get it back on top. And once again on the count of 3. It's 1, 2, 3, and they all penetrate through.
So you walked in for the first time in 1968. You loved magic, and then I assume you just started coming back. And what tell us about that? What happened?
Yep, just continue going back and learning more magic from Mr. Mingus and meeting other magicians and learning from them as well.
Yeah, I think that's part of my story as well, because once you come into a magic shop, it's not the tricks. It's not about learning the tricks. You become part of a brotherhood and part of you become part of a family, you know, and I think that's where the value of having a magic shop really is.
Exactly.
Because we can learn magic through books. You know, there are other ways to just learn on your own. But I think the benefit of having a magician in front of you to talk to and talk about the problems and work things out one-on-one and then making friends beyond just the tricks. I think that is really where the magic of a magic shop really is.
Yes. The importance of a brick and mortar magic shop. I'm sure there are many full-time professional magicians who got their start in a brick and mortar magic shop.
Without a doubt, and I'm one of them. You know,
You're an example.
Yeah. You eventually bought the Mingus Magic Shop.
1976.
Wow. And so you've owned it since then
Yes.
for 43 years now. And again, because you bought the shop, I was able to come in and learn magic, become part of this brotherhood and this family of magicians, not knowing that years later I would be a professional magician traveling around performing. You know, it's really because of this shop that you bought that I have a career and the life that I've lived, which I do it 20,000 times over. You know, I've had an amazing time. And it's all because of the Mingus Magic Shop.
And that's good to hear.
Yeah. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. I learned cups and balls and started going back to learn more magic. That's when I caught the bug. And Leroy just started teaching me more and more. He took me under his wing and knew I was serious about learning magic.
Magic was really, really important to Wayne. It really was. Almost to the point of a profession. You know, I mean, but with Wayne, it was completely different. He had a different interest in it, and he always has.
My son Wayne doing his magic again.
In addition to helping around the shop, Wayne would also assist Leroy in his performances.
Our ring did a banquet every year at the Goodwill Fire Company, and that particular year Leroy was on the show as a Chinese magician, and his Chinese magic name was Li Ming, from Leroy Mingus. And my cousin Chris was his assistant. My aunt Anna, which was Chris's mother, was also his assistant, and I was his assistant.
In 1975, Leroy required heart bypass surgery. Unfortunately, he refused to do the recommended therapy, resulting in the necessary amputation of his leg. Every day for the next 3 years, Leroy would go to the shop and continue to produce the wonderful feather flowers he was known for, up until almost the day he died.
The end of 1979, Leroy was having chest pains, and turned out he was having mild heart attacks. And he died December 31st, 1979. Mr. Mingus not only taught me how to perform, but also gives me advice on how to handle yourself on stage and deal with the public. And he made my first table that I performed in. He made sure I had the props that I needed to do a show. And if he was performing at a place, he would ask me to be his assistant and help him out. And there's a few other magicians that asked me to help them out on other instances, for example.
I being one of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, Leroy and you would work together, and, you know, here I am again, it's just passed down generation to generation, and here I am asking you to help me.
Right.
You know, we were on TV together, and you're assisting me in a show in the same way, you know, that you assisted him, and, you know.
And as well, there was a time when you worked in the shop.
Yeah, I came in. I think it's a rite of passage. If you want to become a professional magician, you have to spend a short amount of time working in a magic shop. It's it's just you have to pay your dues. I was in high school when I first started working here at the Mingus Magic Shop, and I think that lent to, not in a direct way where by working in a magic shop I learned how to be a great magician on stage. I still am trying to figure out how to be a great magician on stage. But I think what it did was it surrounded me with the craft that I would eventually turn into a career. And I think being immersed in a world of magic where, and Siegfried and Roy had a great quote, something to the effect of, that's when my life became magic and magic became my life. Because there's this threshold you cross from just being interested in magic and really liking it a lot and jumping off of that cliff to where it truly becomes your life. Sure. So doing the cups and balls is like a welcome to the world of magic, because I came in here when I was 10 about and that was the first trick you ever showed me.
Sure it was.
When I came in here. And how long have you been doing it?
I've been doing cups and balls for 51 years.
51
years. Leroy Mingus taught me that version back in 1968.
So that's like so when I learned it, it was kind of like you're passing on. It's kind of a tradition.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's an old classic of magic. It's something that I think everybody should learn how to do. It's
wow.
Cups and balls.
And this goes back centuries, but you've been doing it over 50
over
years.
50 years.
Wow.
Exactly.
So
yep.
This is one of the original OG tricks.
It is. Speaking of originals, there's a lot of guys that used to hang out in the magic shop back in the 60s and 70s, and they're here back in the theater. You want to go meet them?
Yeah, that's cool.
Right,
yeah, let's do it.
Sure.
We can talk shop. No pun intended. I love how you guys are talking about things. This is what, 50s, 60s, 70s, during that era, 60s, 70s. So you still have little tiny, losable, breakable things that you hold near and dear to you from that time, and it's lasted decades, and I would assume you're hanging on to these things because they affected you in an emotional way.
But he also sold us a lot of stuff we wish we wouldn't have bought.
Yeah, that's one thing. I think you after a while, when you go to a magic shop and you buy all sorts of tricks, I think you segment your magic into two categories. Wow, I bought this and played with it for a little bit, and now I have it. And then you have those handful of things that you really, really hold near and dear to your heart. You know what I mean? I think at least I do. I have a little briefcase that has a lot of the very first things that I bought right here in the Mingus Magic Shop. The color-changing records. Okay, now we went from records to cassettes to CDs,
right?
And technology has changed. You know, the MP3s and all digital, and so on and so forth.
Well, what about the styrofoam zombie?
Yeah. We talked about that. We all had the styrofoam,
but
the plastic cup.
Ray made a good point, because people say, well, magic as an art is dead. It's not. Actually, it's really picked up with America's Got Talent. Well,
people
you
like
know
magic.
that. We're on America's Got Talent.
Yeah, I think magic evolves with the times, because for an era, I think in the 1990s, CD magic was all the rage, where you would make CDs appear and change color and all that. And of course, that's such an ancient technology now, you know what I mean? And so you have to stay with the times, you know, and then when smartphones came out, you know, you have to, you start to innovate and change. So I think magic is an ever-changing art.
Evolving.
And an evolving art that you just don't see the same things. People might take that as a dying art because they don't see the old things. You're right, because we're updating and changing things, you know? So yeah, it's a funny world.
Same trick in a new way, kind of thing.
It's still remarkable to see some of the young, just card manipulation. I mean, you know how it's done, but yet you see it, and it's like, wow. It's incredible. Some of the young people today.
And the coins.
Yeah.
I'm obviously, you were here in the early days of the shop, and I'm hearing all about, you know, the things that were going on and the tricks he sold and all that. Now, I've been coming here, you know, since I was a 10-year-old, which is a long time, and I know the history of the shop from my era coming forward. And one of the things that I know, at least it seems to be the big thing that Leroy Mingus and this shop in particular was known for, are the feather flowers. Was that Leroy's big trick?
That was it. Yep. Feather flowers. He manufactured feather flowers and sold them all over the country. That's what the Mingus name is known for. feather flowers.
Cool. And I think everybody at home would know things about feather flowers. They might not know they're made of feathers, but to make a bouquet of feathers appear is a real well-known magic trick.
Yep.
Cool.
And Leroy taught me that when I first started going into a shop.
Wow.
So, and we still make them right in the back room.
Wow. And that speaks volumes for the type of community and the type of I don't know how do you it's so hard to explain what is inside of a magic shop. People think, oh, I'll go in there and learn a couple tricks. It's not that. You're having an experience more than just learning tricks. And so I can't imagine, your experience of 43 years. It must have been
Well,
amazing.
It's a lot of times just watching guys coming in, sitting down at the table, doing some close-up magic, learning from each other. And they're doing their thing while I might be waiting on another customer. Or have a family come in with a 12-year-old kid who wants to start learning magic and showing him the first thing that I've showed everybody else, the cups and balls. Having a solid ball penetrate a solid cup, and they're amazed as to what it can do. And then they buy the trick, you teach them the secret. And hopefully, for a lot of people, that starts the ball rolling.
They get the magic bug.
I was just ready to say that.
That's like I'm a mind reader.
They caught the bug.
Cool.
What are you guys doing down here?
Look who came to visit.
Adele.
Oh, Adele's here.
Adele, have you met Wayne Hoffman?
Howdy.
No.
Wayne
Hello,
Hoffman?
Wayne.
Pardon me. How are you?
Oh, I collect hugs.
Oh, okay. I was going in for one. That's great.
Now, Adele is part of the original Harry Blackstone Senior Show. This is the elusive moth from 1947 to 1950.
Wow. So you're the wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're a magician's assistant.
Yes.
And Harry Blackstone, one of the senior, and there's two Harry Blackstones,
Right.
senior and junior. So you were his assistant. You're like one of the original magician's assistants. Like,
Well, not quite original because he was starting out in like the 1900s, the early 1900s. I didn't join till 47 years later.
wow. So not one of the originals. Well, see, in my opinion, compared to me, I mean, wow. So what was it like being an assistant to Harry Blackstone? I mean, like, that must have been a wild ride.
In the beginning, I knew it was a good show, but I didn't know he was the world's greatest at that time. So to me, it was a gig, and I got paid really well. I was 17, and I was making as much money as my dad was making, $75 a week.
Wow.
So I sent 50 of it home every week, and I stayed and just used $25 to live on. I could do that for every week. But it was a gig to me to begin with. But afterwards, when I used to see people lined up around the block for tickets to get in the show, I thought, boy, this must be a good show. And it was.
Wow. That's
And I loved it. I loved traveling, and I loved being an assistant and wearing all the wardrobe and the music and the excitement of first nights in the different towns, and we're going back the next season to another town to meet more people, so it was great.
Yeah, going city to city. Now, a lot of people don't realize when they watch a magic show, they say, oh, the magician is doing all the magic, but as the assistant, I mean, you almost don't have a show in a Harry Blackstone type of show without you, right? Okay, she reached out for the hand. People don't realize, I think, the assistants are actually, maybe I'm saying too much here, doing a lot of the magic.
That's true.
Yeah.
They're making it happen.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Now, did you sign a contract not to reveal the secrets?
No, I didn't have a contract.
You just...
I was working for a lot of different talent agents in Philadelphia, and they happened to call one of them, and they said, do you have anybody who's short, skinny, used to be skinny, and has stage presence and can be available to fit into the wardrobe and travel with us? One of them they called, he said, Adele, go down there and audition, talk to Harry Blackstone. So he made an appointment for me the next afternoon, and I went in to talk with him. He brought in an assistant whose place I was going to take, and another assistant that I had to match her with size because we did doubles, if you know what that means. And
yes,
then
Shh.
I didn't know it at the time.
Right.
But he said, yes, you're on the show, and he told me what to expect, and that we were family, and we travel together and do stuff. And he said, and I got my parents' permission because I was 17 in those days. They needed parents' and because it was such good pay, they said, okay, go on. We were kind of poor, so it was nice, and it was a real. I didn't know how important it was for me to be on that show, because I just kept to myself. I didn't tell people that I was on that show, and I had my own song and dance act, and I didn't. So, but that afternoon that I went down to talk with him, the girl whose place I was taking, she rushed me out to get some silver high heel shoes and some makeup and some things that I would need to travel with the show. And that night I was on stage.
You know, this is interesting because you jumped right into a magic show, and you hadn't had any experience in magic prior
No,
to
I
that.
saw one or two magicians in my song and dance act at nightclubs and theaters, but I never saw a show.
And now here you're playing one of the most well-known shows in magic history. And it's funny because the story that you're telling me kind of rings in a personal way for me, because that's how I met my wife. She was hired to be in my show in Atlantic City, and I had never met her, and a producer hired her. We organized this deal, and you know, I did the same thing. I put her in the show, and people don't realize how important she is in the show, you know. And then now here I am, you know, years later, locked in, and that's how I met my wife. So yeah, that's what an experience. Walking into a magic shop, having a place to go, and it kind of, what a magic shop does, in my opinion, is it gives the visitor permission to live in a world of magic. It personifies magic. There's a guy behind a counter, you know, who shows you that this is something you can learn, and that it's okay, and it's not a secret craft, and it's not witchcraft, and this is something you can go to a place, and it's giving yourself permission to, like I said, live in magic. The Mingus Mini Vaudeville Theater is the perfect venue for all the events the shop hosts.
It's a great little stage to practice new stuff on, to come up with new routines, and it's just it's a blessing just to have it, to be able to get up on this stage 1 foot above the crowd and entertain. I mean, that's where we all start from, and we catapult after that out into the world and do magic for all those that are willing to watch and listen and be amazed.
Now, usually the reason people first come into the Mingus Magic Shop is they have an interest in magic. The reason they come back?
Wayne.
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 Wayne is the heart of the shop, and that's what everything revolves around.
He's not making $1 million doing this. You know, there's no way. But he's having a lot of fun, and without him, none of this would happen. We wouldn't have, you know, conventions and clubs and people and things to do if it weren't for Wayne. It starts with Wayne. It ends with Wayne. If we could all be a little bit more Wayne-like, I think the world would be a better place. We'd all have a better understanding of each other. You know, there's no more compassionate person that I know. You know, so if I could take anything away from here, other than magic, it's the leadership that Wayne exudes here in the shop.
The relationships formed at the shop are strong, and sometimes are very much so needed.
Some of the things that touched me the most about being in this club is our work with Alex's Lemonade Stand. I don't want to get into too many of the details of it because I wouldn't be able to get through it on video, but you know, we had a club member a number of years ago who had a daughter who was ill, and as a club we looked at each other and said, what do we know how to do? You know, we don't know how to do much, but collectively we know how to do a lot, right? So we said, let's have a show. Let's do a show. Let's give them money because they were helping their daughter with cancer, so you know, they were missing a lot of work and stuff like that. So we said, let's just do a show, raise money, whatever money we get, we're going to give to the family. You know, sadly, we didn't get to that point. We weren't able to hold the show before ultimately she passed. So
the most touching thing is just how much everybody embraced us and our story. You know, with that first magic show, as I mentioned earlier, that initially was coming together, you know, a lot because Ryan and the rest of that group were trying to figure out a way to help us out because my daughter was sick, and you know, we didn't know at that point how things were going to turn out, and they wanted to try to do a show as a benefit to us, just to help us with everything that was happening financially. So you know, and the fact that she passed before we could have that show, you know, was tragic and everything, but immediately the whole group flipped into, okay, well then how can we do this as a way to remember her and to do something positive? And so, yeah, that's how the Magic for Miracles show came about, to support Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. And there's nothing that you can express to really convey how much it touches your heart to know that there are people like that, you know, that are willing to put that amount of time and take something on and make it, you know, their own and really run with it. So that's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. So there he is.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
Blackstone
This is
there.
Blackstone.
That's
Yeah.
Leroy
Mingus.
Mingus, and it looks like, I guess, a letter.
Well, this is proof that they were together.
Yes.
Now, and also Blackstone wrote this letter to Mingus. He hardly ever put a date on things. It was really hard. He would go like January 10th, period. We didn't know what year.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what he did. Yeah. So, but there's no date on this one, and we checked it out. And he mentioned the name Mummy. Now, let me tell you, Blackstone knew hundreds and hundreds of people when he was on the road. When I was with the show, 1947, my first year, the second year, 48, we played the Raja Theater in Reading. And that they were one-nighters, but it was we were here.
Mm-hmm.
It was marvelous. So Blackstone had a lot of friends, and he would always, after the show, in fact, he hired one guy to be the assistant on the show just to drive him.
Wow.
And he was an assistant, but he also drove
Sure.
because Blackstone really didn't drive his car. He just had somebody else do it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that Mingus and Blackstone were together. But he mentions about a mummy. Now, Blackstone, when I joined the show, had a mummy, and it was an empty mummy case that was rolled out on the stage and then opened up, and there was nobody in there, nothing. So he would close it, and he would open it up, and there was a mummy in there. And he took the mummy out, and he would dance with the mummy on stage. And then he would put the mummy back in and turn it around, open it up, and it's a girl inside in a beautiful white gown or an Egyptian costume or something. But he did have a mummy in his show.
That might be the reference, yeah. So they must have had some conversation about the mummy, and that's...
Well, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
So what does it exactly say?
Okay, the letter reads, "Live, laugh, and love. There will come a day when you will break your wand. Remember, the mummy hasn't had any fun for more than 5,000 years." And I never knew what the mummy reference was to until today.
And I can vouch for it. That is definitely Blackstone's signature.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Was the mummy a real person when he danced with it on stage?
Pardon me?
When he danced with the mummy, was that a real person? Or was it just
No, it was a mummy. It was just something
figure.
that would made of cloth and thread and stuff, and with a skull, with a skull on it for the face.
Wow.
And he would dance with her just a couple of steps. Not much.
And now, how Wayne? You own this, I assume.
Yes.
And for how long have you had this?
Since I bought the shop in 1976.
Wow, and you never knew what that reference was until today.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for filling us in on that. That's great.
Thank you, Adele.
Yeah.
You're a wealth of information.
Magic behind the magic, I guess. Huh?
Exactly. Behind the magic.
That's awesome. I met with Wayne a couple weeks ago, and it was just a strange meeting with him because a lot of the commonalities started to come out between what Mr. Mingus did for me and mentored me and passed on to Wayne, and now I see here with a lot of the young magicians that same common thread.
I'm glad Wayne bought the shop, because if it wasn't for Wayne, the Mingus Magic name wouldn't be alive today, or the flowers wouldn't be alive. Nobody would know the Mingus Magic name.
You come in here and it could be your first time in here, and Wayne will treat you like you've been coming in here regularly for years. And that's how Leroy was. You come in there one time and didn't matter what age you were, and he was treated you just like, you always came in there, and always said, hope to see you again, all the time.
With a bright outlook on the future, Wayne and the Mingus Magic Shop are looking forward to celebrating 100 years of Mingus Magic. If you want to know when the Mingus Magic Shop is open, after 26 years, I'm still trying to figure out the hours of this joint, so don't even try. It'll be open when it's meant to be open. Remember, a wizard arrives exactly when he means to, and the Mingus Magic Shop is open exactly when it means to be.
You still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Super excited to go to Tannen's Magic Shop, the oldest magic shop in the whole country. Come on. First of all, we were talking about the mysteriousness of where we are. It took us a second to even find you guys. So the Magic Shop's been in business since 1925. How did this all begin?
We've been in business for over 90 years, and we've always been in a hidden location. Lou Tannen is the founder of Tannen's Magic. There's lots of things here. We have a big collection of vintage and rare magic books. This case is a selection of memorabilia from events we've hosted, some props we've manufactured over.
I think you are ready for your own magic wand.
Yeah?
Yep, and I think you should get the biggest magic wand. In the bag, I have one right here for you, special. Given to me by Harry Potter himself. That's for you to keep. You go rock on, spread that.